just like that, they buy it. They eat it up. You pander to them, you thank them. I mean, really, people, I thought you were a little bit smarter than that. I mean, it's just so easy to say the name of the city. You cheer.
Hey, Stephanie,
you cheer. I mean, just come on.
Welcome to the A Show.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the A Show with the Kings of Pro Wrestling Podcast. I am Justin here with Meelz, and another crazy week, right? It just literally blows up every single time before we start recording.
You by a window, aren't you?
Yeah, I record next to the patio.
Okay, all right. Listen,
Yeah.
I guess if the weather permits, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice day outside. I gotta.
It's a nice day. I would love the podcast outside one day. I mean, that's a dream, but audio-wise, it's a nightmare, apparently, because nature is louder than we all think, and mics are very good at picking up any sense of nature.
Oh wait, you can hear everything going on right now?
I can hear the car zooming past by.
That's cool. That's ambiance.
Okay. Nonetheless, you're here. I guess it's another week. What episode is this?
139. 139.
Oh,
we're almost at 150. We should be nearing 150 around September, I believe.
I don't know what we're doing for 150. Don't even ask.
No, we're not gonna do anything. We've hit the 50. We've hit the 100. Now we do 200.
Now we're just coasting, right? Yeah, of course. The pressure's off.
Yeah, there's no more. Remember that week, that month when we were trying to do A Show 50? And we doubled back.
Well, I was barely on the show.
Yeah, you weren't there. That was one of the Poochie has gone back to his exploits.
Yeah, I was barely there, so that was always fun. With that said, you know what I'm trying to do? Not say so much on podcasts anymore. I realized that I actually edit out quite a bit of on podcasts. I'm trying not to say anymore, but it's just, to me, to move from one conversation to another. So it's just, so I would love, I mean, you know what? You don't have to do this.
I'm not going to edit out your ums.
No one ever edits out my ums. I'm the psychopath who edits out my ums. I also edit out other people's ums. So, you never know.
Yeah. There you go. You just hit 2 right there. I'll let you kill yourself with that.
Hit the counter for me and count how many I do in this podcast, because it's going to be quite a bit of it, considering how much we have to actually talk about on this episode. Actually, quite a bit happened this week. It's kind of strange.
Where do we begin? I guess we begin with Friday?
Yeah, let's begin with Friday. Well, all right. So Friday news or Friday SmackDown? What are we...
Friday news. I think. Well, we weren't going to cover SmackDown anyway because it was a go home. So
SmackDown had a couple moments.
We have to talk about SmackDown. I'm bugging out. You're right. We do have to talk about SmackDown.
You have to talk about. I mean, we cannot miss the urine. All the shenanigans that happen on SmackDown, and I think it actually probably sets up for Raw pretty nicely, actually. But yeah, I mean, there was big news on Friday that we were all floored. Were you taken? I was taken back by it. I thought, and the news that we're speaking about is that Paul Heyman. It was announced by Pro Wrestling Sheet and then WWE.com. Paul Heyman has now, I guess, been relieved of duties as the executive director of Monday Night Raw, and all duties will be transferred over to Bruce Pritchard, who will consolidate both the Raw and SmackDown team for once, as they use streamlined process. Mm-hmm. Whereas Paul Heyman will now focus on his duties as an on-air talent. There's so much. I think both of you and I have been in the corporate world long enough to read between the lines of a bit of jargon that they use.
Yes, this was a demotion. Let's just be clear. This was a demotion, and it sucks for Paul. But I think whereas you were taken aback when I saw it, I was bummed. But then I said, you know what? A shoe had to fall somewhere with these Raw ratings, and started to put it together. Like, let's be real. Like, we did enjoy Raw for a majority of the time, but it did feel like it was on a treadmill. It did feel like we were saying the same thing every single week. And there were certain things where like that had literally no payoff. Like, could you tell me what the Alistair Bray Seth thing was going to end up in? Because there was nothing for Alistair there, or the Liv Morgan push that they stopped.
Well, Liv Morgan push. I mean, I think you can transfer writers and it still will be the same thing, to be honest with you. But I think just in general, the overall, what I liked personally about Paul Heyman's Raws, and maybe it was because amplified with the crowds and all this other stuff, over the last, I would say, how long has it been? Oh my God, it's been over a year. It's almost a year. I would say almost a year since they've done this, since we had the big Paul Heyman, Eric Bischoff announcement, and then Bischoff was ousted
It was a year.
Yeah. So it's been about a year. I think what we've enjoyed a lot more about Paul Heyman's Raw is it's kind of rewards you for watching Monday Night Raw. Instead of gearing towards a pay-per-view or angling towards a pay-per-view so often, there'd be times you'd get an Andrade versus Rey Mysterio ladder match, Monday Night Raw. You'd get a great series between Aleister Black and Buddy Murphy. I mean, that, culminated to a pay-per-view, but also the rematch ended on Raw. So a lot of times you would be, which is what you kind of want from a Monday night show. But I would agree that over the last number of months, considering all the changes that they've been, and, I can't even fault him. You lose Becky Lynch. That's a major part of Raw. Mm-hmm. That's probably the ace for Monday Night Raw, quite frankly. I mean, if you compare Roman... Go ahead.
And yeah, you're right. And I was going to say, in addition to that, you lose Becky, but then you have to not only push a brand new champion in Drew McIntyre that has never even sniffed that title before. Yeah. Then it becomes a lot more difficult. And I'm not saying that Paul didn't have his work cut out for him. He absolutely did on Raw. But there is no time, like, especially now, there really isn't a way to gauge who's sticking and who's not. And I feel like with SmackDown,
but I feel like that's not his fault, though. I mean,
I put that in the bucket of that not being his fault. Like, that's not his fault at all. That's still in the bucket. But I also think on the other end, Paul did certain things that we might have enjoyed. Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, and stuff like that taking a long time to go. And I think you even had a little bit of issues with it before Mania, where it was like, okay, just get to it. He did that with everything. And I think that was a detriment to the show as well.
No, I agree. A lot of it, as you said, felt like kind of running on a treadmill. Kind of felt like, okay, we're doing this. Where are we going? Really, where are we going with this? Like, really, where are we going with this? The whole Shayna Baszler thing. Where are we leading with this? I mean, again, a victim of circumstance, Becky Lynch is gone. Even the Aleister Black thing. Where are we going with this? What's kind of his trajectory?
He wasn't on Raw.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't on Raw this week, so... I mean, we kind of get that, but I think ultimately the bigger purpose, what they're gearing towards now is obviously Seth versus Ray, which doesn't really need Aleister at this point anymore, but it didn't lead up to a pay-per-view match between Aleister and Seth. I don't know if that's Paul's fault, but it's certainly a misstep, I would say.
I think... Go ahead.
No, and also giving it away various times on Monday Night Raw through various different circumstances.
Yes. Giving away really big matches, giving away the Seth Aleister finish with Aleister beating Seth on a throwaway Raw is kind of egregious to me.
But again, there's part of me that likes that. There's part of me. We're building to this match. This kind of match that's happening. I don't know if it's happening for the first time, but it's obviously a monumental kind of face-off for the amount of weeks that they've been building it up. But once again, the kickoff to start a Raw and then kind of have this match and kind of get there, end it there. It's interesting. I think we could do a lot of critiquing from here in terms of what could have went wrong, but I think ultimately the circumstances, because before COVID, I could honestly say I didn't really feel any of these feelings that I felt.
Yeah.
I thought Raw was going in a great, fresh direction. Brock Lesnar was there. Becky Lynch was there. I mean, Charlotte Flair, Asuka, everyone's kind of rolling on a very, great, amazing cylinders. And then things regarding COVID, and it kind of pushes everything back. Suddenly you have your flagship show, Monday Night Raw, and no one kind of really wants to watch it. And there's a lot of circumstances behind why no one wanted to watch Raw. I think still a major part of it is that it's very long. But, I would say probably when you compare what Bruce did, and I think ultimately that's what we're doing. We're compared to kind of what as Bruce has done with Friday Night SmackDown and what Paul Heyman has done with Monday Night Raw. It's clear who kind of the stars are on SmackDown, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing. I think there was a quote from Sean Ross Sapp's report of this where it was kind of like, they're pushing the catering guys basically or something like that. Like there was that's absolutely true. Like there was a bunch of people there that like you got Angel Garza and people like that I feel as though would have benefited a lot from like being pushed in front of a crowd, obviously. But when you turn on Raw, you're going to see a bunch of people you don't know, and I think that is like essentially the big deal there. And that's why I think Raw looked the way that it did on Monday, right? With the amount of people that were on that show and why it got such a good rating, because they put established people on that show. They built up to a hot end of the 3-hour segment that actually like did really good numbers and was a really good segment, but it also mixed in the new guy. Like I got to say, like, even before we review it, I really liked Raw this week. And I thought it was definitely a breath of fresh air. But I also noticed that Raw was similarly paced like SmackDown was.
I think, there's a lot. I think with terms of SmackDown, there's a lot going on because you have to fit a lot in a 2-hour show. I think what's the difference between, I think Bruce's visions more clearly, and this could be because of decades of working with Vince McMahon, kind of align more to the vision that Vince McMahon actually sees for superstars. Where you see an Otis, and legitimately someone who 6 months ago was kind of like really a nobody, and kind of building him into a star, and even though the crowd isn't there, you kind of know like, oh wow, all eyes are on him, and you kind of built him successfully to the point. He's Money in the Bank holder. He's got the girl. He's had a major storyline. He's kind of come out the other side in a much bigger spot than he did when he went in. Whereas if you compare him to kind of, let's say, Alistair, because I think Alistair is kind of the benchmark of who we can see as someone who should be in a role that's kind of like, it honestly could be in a role that's similar to Otis on SmackDown in terms of just building up the next guy and having him be a prominent figure on the show. You don't see that because he's constantly in this flux of feuds with Buddy Murphy, Seth Rollins, all these other people, et cetera, and he's in this, and it's like this weird flux that kind of doesn't have a trajectory. I mean, or the trajectory is a very long-term step away. Yeah. So I think when you look at Bruce Pritchard and when you look at Paul Heyman, it's always been that way. I mean, Paul Heyman's vision has always been new talent. We need new faces. We need something edgier. We need something to capitalize on a lot of.
Be clear. Pritchard's vision is essentially Vince's vision anyway. Like,
that 100%.
That's what Vince wants to see. And Paul's, I got to be honest here. Like, Paul's creative. Like, you see us always referencing like Tommy Dreamer. He's pushing him like Tommy Dreamer. He's pushing him like this person. It's literally, he's done the same thing creatively forever. He's gonna give you the risque sex angle. He's going to give you the down on his luck baby face that always loses until he wins the big one. He's always going to do those angles, and he did it again here. And I think to the detriment of certain people, like I think Lashley for sure, Rusev for damn sure. I think it definitely hurt Kevin Owens a little bit where he has to be rehabbed.
I mean, he won on Monday, so
yeah, exactly. And you know, like, did you notice that like Raw seemed like it was like, okay, everything you saw for the past couple months, forget about that. This is what's going on now.
I wouldn't say that, but I would say that it highlighted. I would say he's continuing to take kind of what Paul Heyman actually did, and he's kind of, in terms of what happened on Monday Night Raw, I think we're the pace is going. There's a lot more direction to a lot of things. There's a lot more pace to a lot of things. It seems like it's running in a direction. We can see we're not doing the entire weeks of building now for will they, won't they? Are they going to break up for Andrade and Angel Garza? It's something that's like, okay, now we see it, and now it's in peril. So let's put that in our mind, and let's see where it goes from here. Will they manage? Will they be incredibly fragile, or will they sort of stand the test of time? And it isn't this kind of like, okay, will they, won't they? Will they, won't they? I think a lot of with Paul Heyman's Raw, and this is not a slight to Paul Heyman's Raw. I still like Paul Heyman's Raw. I still like Paul Heyman's writing. I think he's a great breath of fresh air when you consider the last 20 years of WWE, and you look at an entire decade. To me, like, I would say from when Paul Heyman stopped writing for Friday Night SmackDown to kind of maybe a couple years ago, I don't remember anything of true significance outside of maybe Punk and something else. It's falling in this trend. So what I always appreciated about his writing is that he kind of presented things in a different manner. Unfortunately, I guess for how it's surmised of how this kind of went down, it was all based on, I would say it's based on numbers. And then maybe it was a Paul thing too. Maybe Paul didn't want to do it anymore, quite honestly. I looked at it. Sorry, no, but I looked at it as well, and I was like, maybe he just doesn't want to either, because it's kind of you hear, if you listen to Something Wrestle podcast, like Bruce Pritchard's still doing that podcast, right? But he's unable to even schedule times to do the actual show. Like, all the shows have been coming out a little bit late thus far. They've been coming out mistimed, a lot of different things. And he's saying on the podcast, like, yeah, I had a 9:30 p.m. meeting with Vince McMahon, and he finally called me at 11:30 p.m. So it's like, it's a lifestyle as well that some people, I mean, I'm sure Paul Heyman himself, he's probably like, you know what, that's cool. He's perfectly fine with being a talent, because he's experienced the WWE monster several times before. And this might have been his best outing, quite honestly. I don't know if he was yelled at or had it when as much odds with people like Stephanie McMahon like he had to before, but this is probably his best outing. And I can honestly say this is going to continue. I think Bruce Pritchard has a lot more staying power than probably a Paul Heyman or Eric Bischoff will. But I think it's always going to change. A writer's always going to change. This is not something that's static. It's always going to change, and it's always going to change frequently.
Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say.
Sorry.
I think, again, there are a lot of factors that led into this. There's a lot of speculation. There's speculation even coming out that, like, about AJ Styles not being able to handle it on Raw, and I think that Raw was kind of handled, again, inmates running the asylum. It looked like and that's the way, like, Paul runs his shit. And I feel like for him to have had to run this prolonged for the A show, essentially for Vince is crazy. But there ain't no way that you're gonna walk into a office or a meeting and with Vince McMahon and say, okay, Raw is doing worse than SmackDown. He's just not going to let that happen very long.
Yeah, that was weird.
that show's going to that Raw is going to keep stacking the guests until they get back to a 2.1, 2.2. And they're not going to stop until they get back to that number. So I would expect July through SummerSlam to be literally slammed. Like, I think there's certain people, and we'll talk about it later, they're going to be reoccurring on the show for the next couple of weeks, regardless of anything that's going down. Another thing that happened over the weekend that we found out, rather, is Edge injured. He tore his tricep during the filming of the greatest wrestling match ever, which we'll talk about at length in just a couple seconds. Once again, it happened during the taping. That would have meant that it happened 2 weeks ago during In Your House, so they kept it, or during the day that In Your House was aired live. They filmed that beforehand. So I guess they kept the secret for about 2 weeks, which means it makes sense that WWE, when they announced it, finally they said he got the surgery. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, of course he got the surgery. It's been 2 weeks since it happened. Yeah. But he's not scheduled to be back for the rest of 2020. Wish him the best of luck, but damn, how does he come right back and go right back to his old habits?
I'm an Edge head, of course. So I would think, after a number of years off, I guess, hopefully you would hope that you would have been in the same situation as kind of left, and you kind of can excuse it for a sense, because for the last, when he was in WWE for his run of maybe like 15, 16 years or so, I mean, it's constant ladder matches, constant tables matches. You build up this wear and tear, and things just start tearing a lot easier as they start wearing. This was kind of the same thing, I think. And it's weird because it's kind of a freak accident, but it's always a kind of a freak accident with that.
Well, allegedly it happened actually during a reshot of one of the angles, because of course the match was. And I think a big reason why the match was so good is that it was heavily edited. And there was, like, if you notice, there's literally no downtime in that match at all. It's almost like they're working like 22, 28-year-old dudes in the ring, but he allegedly heard it on a reshoot, and you can see it. I guess the reshoot must have been the finish, but he allegedly heard it there. And people said that during the final part, after the match ends, you can see his tricep, actually, it's purple. And I haven't gone back and watched it yet, but it does seem as though, like, you can see it after the match ends. But again, what a way to come back. He's just, again, just like we're all gonna have to do a mulligan and try it again next year. So is Edge, and we got the moment at Royal Rumble. Now we can just kind of get them rolling on something else. But I think that they're gonna go right back to this, right? They're gonna go back to Orton Edge 3, right?
Yeah, I think so. You know what? I think it's probably, I wouldn't say an injury comes at the best time, but honestly, for a situation where the entire storyline was built up with could he, can he, and then he goes to the kind of limit and he proves himself that he can a bit, and then kind of gets his entire fire just kind of, I don't know, stomped out, for lack of a better term, maybe kicked out, I don't know. But he gets his fire completely stomped out, and now he has to kind of go back and kind of revisit and kind of build his confidence again. I think that's the story you kind of tell with this entire thing. Yeah, if he had won, it would probably been a terrible time for him to reveal that his tricep had been torn.
I think it might have made it better, but I think that, like, I mean, maybe, and I'm tinfoil hatting, maybe they changed the finish to him losing because he knew he was injured. Maybe. Who knows? Nah, I always felt like maybe he was always supposed to win. I don't know. Honestly, beyond the injury takes, I think it was a fantastic match. I think it was much better than either of us had anticipated. I always felt like Edge can have a great match, but then to be Randy Orton, he kind of goes when he's really motivated. Yeah, you don't really see a lot of, like, they're quite a bit few of, classic Randy Orton matches, but they're always few and far between. I mean, there's one from 2004, and then maybe the next one is from like 2009, and then maybe the next one's like 2014 or something along those lines. Like they happen quite a far between one another, but when he's motivated, man, he can go. And those two guys tore it down, and you would have thought it was a Tokyo Dome. I mean, they definitely, and I like that it kind of followed themes throughout the decades. It started off slow with a bunch of rust holds. You had your spots. You had your stealing finisher spots from the 90s. You had your kicking out finisher spots from the current decades, and that's what kind of ends the match, which is perfect there. I know a lot of people were upset at Randy Orton's comments towards Ciampa and NXT, and I think. Yeah, and I just think that it was overblown. I think that he was. I think for one, Randy was preparing us for what was going to happen in this match, but I also think that it was a way to, like, I don't like how it divided the two shows. They're, like, largely the same. I think that if you look at any John Cena match in 2018, he was kicking out of mat finishers on those matches too. So I can't say it's just NXT, and he was slapping the knee too. So I don't know, like, or slapping the thigh rather. He was, that's not an exclusive thing to Champion Gargano, but essentially,
it might as well be. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, but again, people are using these comments to, like, act like they never had good matches, and that's just, like, come on. Like, yeah, they got a little bit overdone in 2018, 2 years after they were having classics and stuff, but don't use these. I feel like it's whack recency bias just because you don't like them now. And I hate that happens on social media. Like, just because you don't like them now, they've never done anything good in the trash. And I think people get caught up with that with Gargano. People get caught up with that with Kenny Omega, the Bucks, everyone. And I think that we got to like use these comments in a vacuum. Orton's just talking about storytelling. And in the matches they're talking about there's a lot of storytelling. And I really enjoyed that there were so many callbacks and finishers that you hadn't seen in years. Like Edge busted out so many moves. I hate the anti-venom also. Let's just be clear. That is a whack finish. I hated it at Mania. I hated it at Mania. I hate it more here. It's totally silent. I looks like they're hugging. I can't tell what's happening.
Edge and submissions have never really been that good. He kind of just wings it. I'm not a fan of the move either. Cool name, but not a fan of the move, particularly myself. I think it's one of those moves that are obviously like, okay, we're not really trying to bump crazy. Like, I'm not really trying to hit people with spears that often. My shoulder may pop out at any moment. So
and it did, or his arm did.
But let's try to come up with a creative way. It's similar to Chris Jericho with the Judas effect. Like, I'm not really trying to be taking all these back bumps for the rest of my life to hit this code breaker. Let's try for a spinning back elbow. But I just think, they did really, really good. And in terms of the Tommaso Ciampa sort of thing, yeah, I think it's more so based on storytelling than it is like, oh, you're a good wrestler, oh, you're not a good wrestler. And I think they tell these stories. I think Randy Orton, and I listened to him on the Corey Graves podcast over the weekend, actually before
he goes out of his way to say Ciampa's good on the interview.
Yeah. But I think overall he's like, but you got to be able to kind of, it's just a difference of wrestling philosophies. And I think one is a much more newer, fresher one that believes that this audience is, can't appreciate or need these type of spectacles to be able to do this. And that's one philosophy. But another philosophy is, listen, slow it down, tell the story, and you'll bring them there. You'll bring them along the ride instead of having to force feed them a whole bunch of stuff. Now, it just kind of depends on the philosophy, and a lot of it is separated by age, quite frankly, because it's just an age thing. It really just is, and it's something that maybe the 38 plus crowd in WWE won't understand, but everyone under, well, I don't even know how old Tommaso Ciampa is, probably like 30 something too, but it's like, I think it's just a difference of wrestling philosophies based on the show that you're on. And so
they killed it. I think this is one of my favorite matches of the year. Let's just get this out the way because we also got to talk about AJ Bryan later. And we got one more thing to talk about, and this is actually like a big thing. There was someone who tested positive for COVID.
Yes.
WWE's wilding, but I thought they were wilding. Then it came out later today or earlier today that they were wilding. Be clear. No one should be running right now. Let's just be clear. We Meelz and I have had conversations with our boys about NBA. Should they be running or not? And the problems they're having. WWE generally has gone off without a hitch. And that's in a lot of ways. In AEW, they've gone off without a hitch. In some ways, that's cool. In other ways, we knew that this was going to happen. Let's just not put the rose-colored glasses on. Reportedly, one of the PC students there got it on June the 9th. So that would have been, what did I say? Like right after In Your House or during that time, the In Your House was being...
It's around the In Your House date, yeah.
And so they had tapings scheduled for today, or actually they had it for today, but it was supposed to be Monday and Tuesday, and they were going to do the whole week of shows. They've canceled today so everyone could get... And then today's Tuesday. They canceled today so that everyone can get tested in hopes that they can do Wednesday, in which I believe they had, and I'm not looking at it right now, they had NXT and SmackDown scheduled for today and tomorrow. Mm-hmm. They would do, I think they do 2 NXTs. And correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure people are screaming right now. But this would affect literally the whole week of shows if they can't do it. It would be clip shows that they would have to be doing here. Or they have to do a rerun of Backstage.
Don't mind the drag racer in the background.
Don't trust me. They do that all the time out here. So essentially, we knew that this was going to happen. But what the question was that there was a rumor that came out that was reported that they had fans there this week. And I think I buried the lead even more. They had actual fans there, selected fans to join the show. And it was a rumor that they were told not to wear the masks. Now, it came out from a journalist what's the guy's name? Let me find it real quick. He did a lot of the stuff when WWE was being considered essential. John Alba, and he reported that the fans said that they were never pressured by WWE to not wear a mask for TV purposes, for any other reason, and they confirmed that there were temperature checks and they signed waivers as well. One group of fans noted that they were in a group that had masks on them, but they chose not to wear them when the taping started. I looked up the rules for Florida right now. Apparently, masks are not required. They're strongly suggested to wear them, but they're not required. So right there is a problem. The state of Florida is fucked, and it's allowing more fucked up companies like WWE, and to a lesser extent maybe AEW as well, to do their thing down there completely unchecked because they're following the rules, and people they're gonna get mad, and we have all the right to be mad. But everyone here is fucked up. This is terrible. This is absolutely terrible. Yeah. Like, this is a real thing, and to even have those fans there, I saw the Street Profits on Raw going in the fans yesterday. And I was like, this is terrible. Do not do this. This is a bad idea. But when you take it out of the vacuum there, it's like, but they're not going to get in trouble other than not doing the tapings because it's completely legal to do that right now in Florida.
Right. No, I agree. And I think just in general, with everything that's kind of going on, I think it's incredibly irresponsible of WWE not to have employed some sort of testing, some actual like legible testing at this point. I think it's completely irresponsible by them, and they should take it a lot more seriously. And I don't know if they want to do testing quite frequently, like every week or something, but at least you do it on a periodical basis. I mean, you do the wellness testing, which I don't know if it's been suspended or not. I don't know at this point, but you do the wellness you do that. You employ that testing for the health and safety of your performers every so often. So they either performing and they don't, do something crazy, or they don't have anything crazy or something along those lines. You do that. It's more important with this COVID testing. Everybody, and the thing is, Florida and what they're doing, and how do you compare that with what the NBA is planning to do? NBA is doing the bubble. NBA is like, no, you're not leaving for 3 months. WWE can never do that. WWE will never do that. WWE will never say for 3 months we're taping shows completely. You will not be able to go. It's less of a controlled environment, and now it opens to the idea of, okay, you're going to go home, you're going to go meet with your family. Maybe they work here, maybe they work there, maybe you're going to the beach, maybe you're going this. Everything's kind of open. It presents a much more, from the bigger picture, WWE should have seen it and be like, oh, we need to be a lot more stringent with the things that we do if we want to continue doing this on a weekly basis.
And be clear, it's hard. It's very hard. And it's going to be hard for the NBA too, to keep these people locked down. Like, I know they do the hotel thing for people that fly in and that don't live in Orlando, but it's very hard for people.
Sweet, by the way. Whoa.
It's very hard to keep these people down. Like, someone's going to break the rules. And I'm not saying the PC student did that. I'm not saying that like he contracted. Like, we don't know if he contracted it from anyone inside the building. But this is just the nature of, like, are there
how
dogs
Florida's
fighting?
run? Yes. Are there dogs?
There's like dogs like fighting outside. I have no clue. Anyway, but like it's so tough to get them to do the right thing. No one's going to do the right thing because no one's been doing the right thing since this pandemic started, and that's the problem. And yes, we absolutely need to hold them accountable. We need to, because they're fucking up right now.
Yeah, they 100% are fucking up.
We don't have an update here, but I'm sure that if it does get canceled or something bigger happens, I wouldn't mind hopping on and doing an emergency pod, because 2 things could happen here, or 3 things could happen. No one else had it but that guy, and that would mean that he probably got it from somewhere else, which goes into what I just said, that they weren't following the rules of when they went home. Right. Or a lot of people have it, and a couple people will be off the shows, and they'll have to cancel Wednesday and Friday. Or they'll shut everything down.
Which I feel like is more than likely, to be honest with you. As much as Vince McMahon doesn't want to do that, as much as he'll probably say, all right, those of you who tested positive, you're here. Or those of you tested positive, see you in 2 weeks. Like, as much as I think that he probably wants to do that, I mean, you have one person. I mean, you're testing everybody at the same time. So you kind of get an idea of like, but even if one person is, it could affect so many different people. It could affect so many different storylines. It affects the money. This is something that's why I'm like very hard on sort of WWE for not doing the right thing in the situation, because you put a lot at risk and for what?
And we hold them more. We hold them more accountable because they got the money to do so. So like 100%. We know, like be clear, we know both these companies not tested. We know this. We know this for a fact.
Well, AEW says that they're completing tests, and they actually have wristbands on their hands to complete those who've had COVID tests and then those who've had temperature tests. This is just what I hear. I don't know. This is just what I hear. I can only report the things that are told to us.
Both of these
from
companies,
AEW.
Both of these companies is cap because Triple H was talking about some goddamn magic spray the other month, and these niggas talking about some fucking armbands, wristbands. It's fucking cap. Let's just be for real. They're both bullshitting with people's lives, and no one wants to see through that because they either got a hate boner for one company or a hate boner for the other one. Let's just join together for once and be like, y'all need to chill the fuck out.
Is Roman Reigns the Kyrie Irving of the WWE?
Oh, hell no. Sami Zayn
is. Is Sami Zayn the Kyrie Irving of the
WWE? Sami Zayn is. Come on, let's be clear.
Sorry, just to kind of like close things off on this, I definitely think it's a situation that this is going to be a situation you don't really get tests for a certain amount of time. So it's like 24 to 48 hours, maybe even longer than that. So by the time that they get the results of the test, it'll probably be the day to tape SmackDown. So I don't think we'll have an NXT this week, to be honest with you. If there's an NXT this week, I would be color me shocked.
It would be live, and I think they just tape the next episode the next day. It would probably be live.
If they're able to get the results immediately, expedite that.
They go Meelz. They're gonna cap the results. Let's stop acting like we moving.
I'm not.
They're not moving on the same wavelength. They going. These are the same people that had to do the piss hot, keep the title for 30 days. They can kayfabe any test they want. I think they're gonna kayfabe it here. Because remember the last positive test we found out about. The last positive test we found out about, we didn't hear about till like days later.
It's too risky to kayfabe a test. It's too risky. COVID is not the thing you kayfabe. It's not something that you kayfabe. It's not something that's like, okay, we're gonna bullshit it and we're gonna send people out who may have been infected by it. It's not something you kayfabe. If they plan on doing it, they shouldn't do this. And I would look down on them heavily for not having the interest of their performers in mind while doing this. That's what I would say. But I would hope they wouldn't kayfabe it. That's what I hope. If there's an NXT this week, I'm assuming that there's been testing and they've got results, and who's ever showing up on the show has been tested as well. That's all I'm saying.
Fuck them both. Let's talk about Backlash real quick.
Okay.
Real quick though.
Okay.
No. It's not gonna be a long show. There's only like one more thing to talk about on that show.
You want to talk about Taker?
Let's talk about Taker. Because I don't want to talk about Backlash. I think I'm done with that time period.
Yeah. No, Backlash didn't have a lot on it. I mean, it was.
It's a two-match show.
Yeah, if I could summarize Backlash in one sentence, it's a two-match show. And shout out to Drew McIntyre and MVP for delivering, and shout out to Randy Orton and Edge for delivering. Oh, sorry, Bobby Lashley.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I read too fast on the Wikipedia page. Good for those for delivering. Everybody else, I'll see you at Extreme Rules. That's all I gotta say. But yeah, I mean, let's move to the Taker doc. The Taker doc is Undertaker chasing the dragon.
Wasn't as big a fan of this episode as I was the first three. Not gonna lie to you,
because it's monotonous to this point.
Already. It's almost like the Jordan. I took that personal, and when it's Taker, like I need to be out there. That's his. I took this personal, and this pretty much takes you from the Goldberg match all the way up to, I'm guessing, Boneyard, or the beginnings of the rumblings of the Boneyard at the end of this episode.
It's the rumblings of the Boneyard. I think this match started after the terrible Saudi Arabia show.
Yeah,
went through Goldberg, that other terrible match, goes through the great match at Extreme Rules. But remember that? I mean, a sleeper of a banger. And then, we're leading up now to what's happening in 2020. But this match, this episode to me, I agree with you and probably not enjoying it in the way. I think kind of the luster of like finding out about Undertaker has kind of worn off just because when you see he's kind of like a dork. But
I'm trying to remember what happened. I'm gonna be honest with you. So
they opened up a lot. Remember, they opened with a bunch of old footage of like Undertaker kind of does, anything that he's kind of
told to. I did like that. I do like the Undertaker vignettes and pre-tapes that they showed.
You didn't like it in MJ? You didn't like it MJ traveling through time to 1985 and then back to 19...
Whoa. This is way different because this followed a narrative throughout.
I'm just busting your balls.
Last Dance had no narrative until like the last episode. I liked the footage of him like doing it and saying, okay, I want to do that again and stuff like that. And him talking about, okay, I'm remembering now. He talks about why he didn't kayfabe for so long. And it talks about how he became an Instagram influencer. That's what I thought was funny. That was the most...
Right.
That was the most interesting part of the episode when he talked about like, hey, this is why I was shouting out Bad Bunny on Instagram. I like that.
No, go ahead.
And I think the strongest part to me was, well, you know what I didn't like was that like no one really held Goldberg accountable for anything, and they kind of glossed over it. And I think probably because the relationship there is still good.
Yeah.
But I think like if this was a relationship that was bad or had soured, this would be a different accounting of that match. You didn't even get to hear anyone else's opinion on it.
Well, I think they covered it in I want to say there's a Goldberg special, like a day of or something along those lines, or there's something that actually covers that match. It doesn't, again, they don't go into the deep, all of it of like, yo, Goldberg really fucked up this match. He talks about being fucked up after the match. He's like, yo, my back. And I was like, damn, I know that hurt. And we all knew it hurt. And you could see the real look on his face. I mean, we've memed it. Here go the fireworks. Be in the hood. But we memed it and we talked about it. And when we actually talked about this match, we were like, man, you could see the skeleton of a really good match happening between those both. And it was kind of unfortunate that Goldberg got knocked out halfway through the match, got his head bloodied open and didn't know what the hell was kind of going on all after the fact. Yeah. So it's kind of unfortunate that sort of happened. And you could see the disappointment in Undertaker's face because he signed on for this match. I'm sure someone like maybe a Bret Hart told him, don't do that match, bro. He gonna fuck you up. I'm sure someone or someone along those lines, he did the match. It's well after I think he would approve for the idea of the match because it's 20 years later. Like neither Goldberg or Undertaker or the people that they were at their prime when this match probably would have been at its peak and probably would have been at its finest.
Yeah,
he takes the match, but then at the end of the day, he takes the match because he does whatever he wants for Vince at the end of the day. And I think that's a story. I think that's a major hindrance to actually learning a lot of things about this, that he pretty much bends over backwards for Vince McMahon. Even as much as at Mania, going home the night before Mania, flying from LA, flying from New York, all the way to Texas to pick up his gear.
I think I heard that story, and I think he took the private jet. I just think they didn't say that.
Oh yeah. I'm sure he took he ain't booking a flight. Like he ain't out. He ain't waiting in terminal.
Shit, I'd love to take a jet.
Yeah, but still, they ain't tell Christian go home and find his damn clothes. I'll tell you that.
That's because he's garbage. Anyway.
But and I think that's a lot of hindrance on his career is that his relationship with Vince McMahon, and it's worked out the best for him. Don't get me wrong, and they're friends and all this other stuff. But his willingness to do anything for Vince McMahon has put him in a lot of situations that's hurt. That you can arguably say it's hurt his career in the latter years of this. And one of them is the Goldberg thing.
Yeah.
Now he bounces back with the Roman Reigns thing, and I think that's pretty dope. I thought that match.
But I thought that it was funny that after that Roman Reigns tag match with Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre, that he said that he was done. And I thought that was crazy because even I think we all said the same thing Vince did. I was like, you don't look done. He looked like the most. Maybe Vince saying that had a little bit different of a connotation than we did when we said it because, of course, we didn't know what was going on.
Vince was like, Undertaker was like, yo, we can talk about this later, but, I think that I'm thinking. And he was like, I'm ready to take whatever lead that you want. And he genuinely looked done, yeah.
And I thought that if that was the moment, but then it's not the moment. And one thing I do like, and I think we'll see that, and I guess this is the last episode coming up next weekend, but The AJ thing has been the seeds have been planted throughout the years, and if this is just it can't be coincidental, right? Like if this is just like a nice coincidence, then I think that's a cool way to wrap up on this story. But I would love to see or hear what's next for him after this, because there was something that was alluded to with AJ earlier in like last month in May when he watched the Undertaker documentary first episode, and then it was never brought up again. So I would love to see where they're going with that.
I think they're trying to wait for people to come back in the audience to have an actual proper match so he can go away. He's not trying to go away on in the COVID era. Like, he's just not trying to kind of end his career there. That's what I'm assuming is happening. So maybe they're kind of stalling their time. But yeah, we'll see what happens. There's, they're bonding over Dr. Pepper. I'll never think of Dr. Pepper the same again, quite honestly.
I also love the Taker really getting along with all the younger guys. That warmed my heart too, even though he's probably a racist. Yeah, but
him and the Miz, mob ties. You know what I'm
saying? Probably because they both used to be racist or
no.
I'm chill. Speaking of AJ and Bryan from SmackDown. 5 commercial breaks, 46 minutes. Really great match. I think in terms of what I like more, I probably like the Edge Orton a little bit better because there was no commercial breaks.
Yeah.
But AJ and Bryan, they can do no wrong. It's up there with remember the title match they had on SmackDown when Bryan turned?
Yeah, before Survivor Series, yeah.
Yeah, it was up there with that to me. I thought it was spectacular match.
To me, this is one of the best matches in SmackDown history. I said it on Twitter. I'll say it again. This was an elite match that they did everything with the tournament right. The two people who have this match, the history behind it. They said a lot of history behind the Intercontinental Championship. The only thing that was missing was that this wasn't the main event of the goddamn show. But they did, and what was the main event was crappy. But they did so much with this actual match, and we talked a little bit about like, why wasn't this on Backlash? Like, it should have been on Backlash, but then you kind of realize like you can't have the greatest match ever in history between Edge and Orton if you have AJ and Daniel Bryan out here having these 5-star bangers on the show. I think probably my only critique of the match is I thought the finish was a little bit dry to me.
Yeah,
I about it.
I am.
It was a little wet. It was a little wet. You know what I'm saying?
I'm really out on the phenomenal forearm in general. He could have just finished him with the Styles Clash, and I think we all would have been fine with that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I think I'm really just out on the phenomenal forearm. If it's not like a surprise, like I like when they do the phenomenal forearm and it's like a flash, like surprise move. It comes out of nowhere. But as far as like giving him the Styles Clash, kicking out, and then doing the phenomenal forearm, it just ended flat for me. And I think it ended flat where I loved an Edge and Orton when he ended it with a move that he hasn't done in 10 years. I thought that was just a better way to utilize that finish. Nothing else on SmackDown, I don't think, that was like super
huge. Friday threw pee in Sheamus's face.
And then he lost on Sunday, so there you go. Bray Wyatt
pissed off and pissed on. Yeah.
Bray Wyatt will be back.
And Matt Riddle will be pending if Friday actually happened.
Listen, we're gonna have a goddamn SmackDown. We're gonna have a SmackDown.
I'm sure Vince McMahon will come out like,
even if it's on 2K, even if it's on 2K universe mode, we're gonna have a SmackDown.
We'll have a SmackDown. There you go.
Raw, the Bruce Pritchard joint, the first Raw in the post Heyman era. I know you said it earlier that it wasn't like a rewrite. I know you said earlier that this wasn't like a whatever you saw last week, forget about it. But just think about what we got here. They finally did the divorce angle with Lana and Bobby. There's really fireworks out there.
There's, the hood. Where we at? Where is June 16th?
What is wrong with y'all?
Y'all don't have fireworks just randomly going off in y'all area?
Not at 5 o'clock. What's 5 o'clock here?
Oh, it's 8 p. It's 9 p.m. here.
So we had the divorce angle that's finally happening. That was prolonged for nearly a year. We have the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits finally going to have the match next week.
Let's talk about that for a second. Quick thing. Let's stop And let's talk for a second, because on Backlash, we skipped a very important thing. I mean, they added the tag team title match to Backlash. We were supposed to have it. Then we got Bad Boys 4. And then we got Rush Hour 7 or 4 or whatever.
Has anyone said that was racist? Has anyone said that was racist yet? The Tozawa stuff? I thought it was a little more racist on Monday than it was on Sunday. But I don't have the right to call anything involving Asian Americans more racist than a black person. So I just felt like it was racist. Maybe Asian Americans can.
I felt like it was racist. And to be honest with you, I'm gonna hold you. It's not, I feel like, again, we're in this time where we're kind of trying to go past, and you see Kofi Kingston and Big E taking the knee down on SmackDown, which was an amazing moment, I think. But we have this moment where we're trying to get past these racial stereotypes. You have many Asian Americans who are currently champions in WWE or fighting for championships right now, and you kind of do this kung fu thing where he's martial arts. He's wearing the and don't get me wrong, Akira Tozawa is great at his job.
He's into it. He's fully into that shit too.
Yeah, he's like, what, TV time? And I get ninjas? What? Crazy.
I think it's fun. And I wanted to say, damn, they moved so far with Asian, or not with Asian, but with black characters, but they moved literally nowhere with Asians. But I was like, nah, they don't do that to Asuka and Kairi and all those other, Shinsuke, and no one else. They don't do that.
People had, people were in the uproar when they were named Kabuki Warriors. You know what I'm saying?
I named it, they chose.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what to say. But it's the whole kung fu thing. I'm like, bro, really? Do we have to do this? Really? Do we have to do this? I think it's personally a very lowbrow, kind of borderline offensive comedy. Maybe more offensive. I'll have to ask some of my Asian American friends if they find it offensive. But I thought it was very, very lowbrow. And I also thought the entire segment itself was wow.
Yeah, and they did it again. They did it again, but then it was only an ends to a means. I do think it might be over unless it's non-24/7 title things going on with it. But they finally announced that tag match. You got a rewrite of the Orton Edge thing that was so Bruce that it made sense when you load out the show with a bunch of stars. And you finally had a breakup. You're seeing a breakup of a lot of stuff that Paul has been doing for the past year. And I think it's very clear this is going to be, once again, a different show from what we saw 3 months ago, and a different show from what we saw 3 months before that, and a different show from what we saw a year before that.
Yeah, I think in 3 months we'll be talking about, I think leading into SummerSlam, maybe after SummerSlam. I'll leave after SummerSlam as a gauge, or maybe leading into SummerSlam, we'll see a much more different show than we see 3 months ago.
It was a lot, not too much in-ring stuff this week on Raw, so not really a lot of matches to speak of. I thought that I really think that pairing Truth with Drew McIntyre was something that kind of gave him a little bit more character and showed that he might be scared of losing his title, and he is worried about that. And I thought that Paul made him into this unbreakable joke, he was like a Marvel Comics character on Raw. And this week he was completely not that, and he was actually someone that is concerned about Bobby Lashley and is concerned about Truth, but also concerned about losing all their titles. And he actually had a lot more stuff to do this week because of that. So I really fucked with it.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a great angle and kind of something that we typically don't see. Now, personally, I don't know how Bobby Lashley, after losing 2 championship matches in 24 hours, kind of comes back from this, but we'll see how it goes. But I thought the angles were great. I thought a lot of all the build to it. They did a lot on Monday. It was like SmackDown, but with a whole nother hour and to flex with, because they didn't use that many characters, but they did a lot with a lot of angles, a lot of things backstage. I like the Bobby Lashley wants to divorce Milana thing. I thought they were hanging that over our heads for way too long.
Way too long.
And now we're going to see possibly a Natalya and Lana sort of thing.
Giving her something to do. It seems as though they're keeping her, but didn't keep Rusev. And I know that'll make a lot of people upset, but there might be a lot of upside to her as a manager in the women's division, and just get her away from the dudes for a while and let her run around with the women. But I think that, again, what I'd see from Raw, I do think we're going to start getting rotating characters. So I do think that if we don't see Aleister 1 week, we'll see him next week, and we might not see KO 1 week, because there's so many characters on this show that need to get time, and Bruce and the team rather have their work cut out for them. But as far as a first show, it had everything, storyline wise, that they had to like redo, and I thought it was pretty exceptional in that regard. But the big angle throughout this show was Christian coming back, challenging or Randy Orton challenging him to an unsanctioned match. What did you feel about this through line? And again, so Bruce, right, to have a through line storyline. This felt like a 97, 98 Raw. I'm gonna keep it 100 with you.
No. I 100% agree with you. And it was interesting. For one, I think there's been a lot of talk I don't want to say there's been a lot of talk. No one cares about Christian but me. But, Christian on backstage would be like, yo, I'm formally retired. Like, I'm done. I don't really have anything else to prove. And then he kind of comes back, and I'm kind of like looking at it. I was like, would they even allow him in the ring if he wasn't cleared to be there? Like, he hasn't been cleared to wrestle in a long time because of concussion injuries, but would they even allow him in that spot to be taken to receive any sort of physical damage if they didn't want him to be there? So I think this could be leading up to maybe a Christian return somewhere down the line against Randy Orton.
No, they wrote his ass off again. He on backstage in the neck brace tonight.
Oh my God. No, but I thought it was a great thing. I don't want too many Raws surrounded by Randy Orton. I think we're kind of past that in 2020. I think it's good for this one night because it kind of continues to establish like, yo, he's a killer. And maybe this is something that I think we're going to eventually get Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre. Because this is just a moment that like builds him up like, yo, he's unstoppable. Like, who can stop him? And the only person who can kind of stand in his way is Drew McIntyre.
Okay, tinfoil hat. Tinfoil hat. If that's a SummerSlam match, I got a tinfoil hat.
Okay.
Because I do think they're going to get the belt off him, and I just think that it's not going to be. I think it's going to be Drew for the remainder of the year, but I think they're going to. I do believe you. The more I think about it, I think it's going to be Randy that gets the title in August. But
and they maybe can even. I
think he's going to get an Evolution. I think he's going to get an Evolution stable.
Interesting.
And I think, and I think he's going to get Dijak in it.
Huh. All right, that's
my tinfoil hat.
Yeah, that's your tinfoil hat.
Yeah, that's my tinfoil hat.
A lot of Reynolds on that rap.
Oh wow, killed me.
Triple entendre, don't ask me out.
Also, speaking of another tinfoil hat. When the New Day kneeled in the ring, they were kneeling for the Forgotten Sons' careers. Also,
oof, because I laugh every time that happens. They
gone.
They did it to themselves. They had Riker. They should have reeled him in. Should have told him like, "Yo, this ain't the time." But
is that tweet still up? Is that tweet still up?
It probably is. I don't even know that man. I'm not following that man. Let's get rid of Riker. Let's get Ali back on the show. I like Ali. Ali about here, social justice warrior, my man. He was a former cop speaking out against police brutality. I love it.
The tweet is still up. It is like, still up. Make me delete it. He even retweeted for over this Department of State American flag jacking off shit. And he tweeted a Bible verse 21 hours ago. So another racist hiding behind religion. Another racist hiding behind religion, bro.
They had we had questions about Asuka and Nia Jax finish at Backlash. We have maybe even more questions following Raw, where Asuka she pins Nia Jax, but it's in kind of a way that it's like
a fast count.
Yeah, and so it kind of leaves the door open for Nia Jax again. It's like, oh, why are we protecting Nia Jax? Because
you know what the match is. We know what the match is, and let's just fucking get to it. And I swear to God, I am praying for Bruce Pritchard to do the right thing in August with this. We know where it's going. I don't want to hear or see anything else. Give Asuka her fucking win back, please.
Yeah. Please make it make sense, Bruce.
She's worked so hard for this reign. I'm not a Charlotte hater, but Asuka deserves. They're gonna have another banger, undoubtedly. It needs to be, and I think we even said it last week. Make it Iron Woman. Make it 2 out of 3. One of the two. Make it like the greatest wrestling match ever and super pre-tape it. But let Asuka get her fucking win back, bro. That's all we want to see. That's all we want to see. Charlotte can get the belt back any fucking time. Just let Asuka have this. I'm begging you. And I'm saying this 2 months out. That's how you know. Because I don't care to talk about Asuka Nia Jax. Let's be clear. I don't care to talk about that feud. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
At all.
No, I agree. We want to talk anything about the Seth Rollins Dominic thing? It was a good segment. I'll say that.
It was good. I think Ray, as he's gotten older, did you see the text that he posted?
The big text. big text. He's so old. Oh my god.
I think Ray has gotten so good on the mic, and I never thought it'd be possible, but he's actually really good on the mic now, and him and Seth are doing their thing, and I really like the pairing of the two. But I think once again they're getting to it. They're getting right to it. Like, we know Ray's gonna be back next week. They're like Heyman's been like everything that he's been doing, bro, for the past month, keeping Ray off TV, having the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits playing bowling and shit like that. Like, he undid it in one episode. He's like, nope, bring your ass back to work. Nope, bring your ass back to work.
Next week.
It's time.
Next week, the Iconics will also receive a women's tag team title shot against Bayley and Sasha. I don't know how this match will go, considering they're two sets of heels, but I know that we personally fancy, I guess, Sasha Banks and Bayley a lot more. So we'll see where they go with this. Will the Iconics ruin Bayley and Sasha's reign for the second time, or won't they? But that is, once again, happening next week on Raw.
Get it over with. And you know what's going to be dope about Bruce doing both shows is the synergy that he can create with those titles and the synergy that he can create with the stories. So, like, I'm going to give.
I hope so, because I hate Otis. I know Otis is his brother. And I hate Bray, and I hate everything. So it's like, I just hope he can only do right with this show.
Well, the big thing that you're probably going to see is Otis on Raw.
Probably. That's what I expected. Oh, my God. I expected that. Just off rip. I expected if the Miz and Morrison won the championship somehow, that Otis was coming in and trash compacting both of them at the same time. So that's what I expected, because he loves that fat man. I tell you that. One more thing. Yeah. So there's been kind of rumors. Vince McMahon, he wants to start doing shows outside the PC.
After this week, no.
He's trying with all his heart. He's like, I do not want SummerSlam in this goddamn air-conditioned PC. I need it somewhere else. He's trying. All right, how about this? If SummerSlam came to your city and you had the opportunity to be 6 feet away from the two people you sitting next to, would you go?
No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't, because I'm immunocompromised anyway. So I have asthma, so I can't go.
You're right. Yeah,
I can't go to any
place. I'm in there like somewhere. Yeah,
yeah, I can't do anything right now. So like anything with big crowds, I'm not really rocking with it. So no, I can't. I'm not gonna go. No.
I would be in there like somewhere if SummerSlam came to Barclays once again. Be like, oh shit, Barclays open? It's not going to be open, but
no, it's not. You better go to Orlando and be in that bubble.
Listen, they're going to put one show. They're going to move to Orlando and tell the NBA players to show up in the audience. You get a free ticket to SummerSlam if you guys show up. And when they're having the NBA finals in like whatever fucking October at this point, I don't know, but when they're having them, they'll be able to enjoy a WWE show. Do I think it's possible? All things are possible based on
empty arena. Well, they're testing it.
Your local government.
They're testing it though. Like, I didn't even notice that there was real fans at Backlash and real fans on Raw until like you actually saw them. And
they were friends and family. I heard they were friends and family.
Okay. Well,
so they weren't like, it wasn't like they like, all right, let's get to, but once again, they're different people from Shotzi Blackheart. Like Shotzi wasn't there.
They're definitely testing out the 20% theory. And if all goes well for them today, no kayfabe, all shoot, then I think that it's possible. But if they get a more than 10 positives, more than 5 positives, then I think hell no, it's not happening until they'll think about it. They'll reconvene on it in the winter. honestly.
Yeah, then you look at. Did you get to watch any of the New Japan stuff? Did the New Japan stuff?
It was all tags the first night. I didn't see last night's show, but I'll have a review next week because I'm going to watch it tonight.
Okay. Also next week, what we're going to do, it's going to be a very highly anticipated show, considering we'll see if there's still WWE programming after this week. We are going to do our top 10 list. We do this every year. Top 10 lists of the superstars that are really killing it, this year up to this point. So it's a halfway of the year list. We're going to count it down. Actually, we said we were going to do outside of WWE this time, right?
Yeah, we're going to do outside of WWE.
Okay, so
should we?
Maybe
Actually,
10,
no. Should we?
It depends. Like, I know people watch WWE, and that's why we tend to do WWE things. Like, our show is WWE based, so like we could do stuff outside of WWE, but I would always fear people like, oh, why is there and why that belong? And also, New Japan and hasn't run for like 4 months anyway.
Yeah, I think we should just keep it to. Well, I mean, it would have to be like a War Report A show joint if we were to do it in both shows, and I don't watch Dynamite, so.
You sure don't. I only watch it once per month, so or whenever they have pay-per-views or something along those lines. So we can see. But okay, we're going to do a top 10 list, just WWE guys, over the last number of months. We're going to do the list. We're going to present it to you guys next week. We're going to talk about it. We're going to debate it. Both of us are coming up with one list. So there's only going to be one list. So again, we have to argue about who's going what on where list and how they're going where.
Yeah.
But both of us are collectively doing one list. There will be other lists. We're going to reach out to people that we love and appreciate. And people were, some of these people were fans of the show. Some of the people that we've known for a number of years, we're going to reach out for them for their list. So it's kind of like an educated kind of a survey sample that we're getting here. So we're going to reach out to a couple people. This will be invite only. Don't ask us. We ask you.
The real VIP lounge.
Yeah. So we'll ask you for your opinion on this list. We'll send it out. We get that. And, we'll have a lot of data to pull from on this entire thing. So, yeah, look out for next week on the A Show.
Absolutely. And until next week, follow us at RNC Radio Live. Actually, it's good if we do have a list because there might not be any wrestling next week. But
that's what I said.
I'm just validating your thoughts, even though I don't agree with them. All right. So until next week, we will let you guys go now. Please be safe. Please wash your hands. Don't be like WWE. And stay out of trouble. And of course, as always, we'll be back next week on the A Show.
All right. Black Lives Matter, guys. See you.